your scrap bin overflowing like mine? We gotta get rid of these scraps, and today we're gonna do that by making an easy, scrappy quilt block that we can later turn into an entire quilt. Hello, my name is Jenna, and today we are looking in our scrap bin, and I found a bunch of these little long, skinny pieces of fabric throughout this whole scrap bin. There are so many of them, and what in the world am I gonna do? And some of them are 1.5 inches wide, and I don't know what to do with those. So we're gonna do a little foundation paper piecing, but make it so much easier. We're gonna take these and some paper and turn them into a quilt block. And our quilt block is gonna kind of look like this. And you don't need to measure out anything, which is my favorite. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you can see more fun quilting projects like this, plus tons of free patterns, and can't wait to see you there. We're gonna start with our scraps and our scrap paper, and I'm gonna cut this down to 6.5 inches, and you can really do whatever size square you want, but I like 6.5 inches because I just have a 6.5 inch square right here, and it makes it easier just to cut it out. So I'm gonna just trim this guy. And do not yell at me for using my rotary cutter on paper and fabric. I'm sorry, okay? I just like to use it for both sometimes, and that's okay. If it gets dull, I have a blade sharpener. We can sharpen this guy. We've got our 6.5 inch paper, and now here's the fun part. We're gonna take our strips and we're gonna figure out which one we want in the middle. And if you have a lot of strips of the same color or the same fabric, like in my fabric stash, I found a bunch that were this like magenta-y color with polka dots. And so putting that in the middle, whenever you put all your blocks together, that kind of connects them all in a way. So that is what I'm gonna do for this guy. And I'm not gonna press any of my strips because I am lazy. I'm gonna press them afterwards and it will all go well. And I find that this works best if you alternate values as you go. So this is darker, so I'll do a lighter one, and I'll put my next strip right on top of this, right sides together along the edge. And then I'm gonna take this to my sewing machine and I'm gonna sew it to the paper. And I'm gonna sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you wanna use a smaller stitch length. It creates more perforations in the paper, so it's easier to rip out later. And so I'm just going to start sewing this. And if your paper rips a little, that's okay. That happens sometimes. I'm just gonna keep it close together. And if you need to glue a little bit of it, you can. But I'm just going to press my seams just away from that center block. And I'm going to keep adding pieces all the way down this way and then all the way down the other way. So I've used white, and now I want something more fun. So I'll use this guy. And then whenever you put your little piece on, you just want to make sure it's overlapping the paper by at least a 1/4 inch, maybe even a 1/2 inch if you want to be extra safe. And if you're really lazy like me sometimes when you quilt and you don't want to have to press it every time, you can just press it with your fingers. If you have nails, you can finger press it even better, but I don't have nails, so I just do a light press. Ooh, this yellow is so fun and bright. Let's use this yellow. And then we would do the same thing to the other side, where we're gonna add a strip, sew it, and keep going. But lucky for you, I have already done that to 2 of these guys. And you can see on the back, we've got our paper still intact, and now we just have to trim them. To trim them, it is so easy. All we're gonna do is take our 6 inch square that we had earlier, put it right on top of our paper, and trim it down like you normally would. And on this one, you can see that my little corner piece fell off. That's okay. I can still measure my 6 inch square and it will be great. And because we used a short stitch length, these stitches are gonna come out super easy because everything is nice and perforated. The only thing you want to be careful of is because we trimmed around the edges, those edge stitches are a little bit more delicate, and so you just want to pull lightly near those edges. And then we can just take all of these off. And there are so many things that you can do with this style block. I don't even know what it's called. I tried to look up what it's called, and in my mind I call it a half square triangle type thingamabobber, even though it may not be a half square triangle, maybe it's a diagonal something. In the comments, if you know what this style of block is, please write it in the comments so then I can know and everyone else can know too. But these guys are gonna come off pretty easily. And then we're gonna do some fun things because I wanted to experiment with these guys. Oh, I accidentally pulled the stitches out for this one. This is why you gotta be careful, y'all. I just told y'all to be careful in the corners or on the edges, and I made the mistake I told y'all not to make. Shame on me, Jenna. What I love about a block like this is not only is it easy to make and it uses up your scraps, but it's so versatile in the way you can place them together to make different shapes, to make a whole quilt. And so I started by doing something like this, and you can see with the polka dots, the magenta E polka dots, it kind of forms a square. So you can imagine a whole quilt with a bunch of these with the magenta polka dots, and you can see those cross hatching lines. That would look really cool. And I feel like no matter which way you orient these blocks, they are so cool. But I wanted to do a little bit more experimenting, especially here on camera, so we can get my authentic reaction to how things go. Because in quilting, yes, you can follow a pattern, but also experimenting can be so fun. And I love experimenting with scraps because they were gonna go in the trash anyway, right? So might as well do something fun with them. And so I found some more scraps in my scrap bin that were a little bit bigger, and I cut 2 6-inch squares, and I wanna test out turning these guys into actual half square triangle pieces to see how it will look, and then see if I can orient them in different ways to create different patterns. Because like most quilters already know, the half square triangle is one of the most versatile blocks there is. So I'm just gonna lay these on top of each other. I'm just gonna do 4 half square triangles. And whenever I'm doing the half square triangle, I wanna make sure to orient my block so that my stripes are the opposite direction. I think doing a half square triangle this way, where half of your block is just one solid fabric and half is random stripes, would be fun as well. I'm just not gonna try that one today, but I wanna try this version of a half square triangle. And so we're gonna pretend there's a line right here, and we're gonna sew down either side of that middle line. If your sewing machine has lines like this, like on the Little Rebel all the way down here, you can just follow one of the guidelines, and so you don't have to draw your center mark for your half square triangle. You can see right here, I'm following that guideline that is 1/4 inch to the left of my middle mark. And then I'll turn this around and do the other side. You can then cut these down the middle. I'll press it open, and then we've got to trim them because when you sew on the bias, it stretches a little bit more. And I can already tell that my sewing to the left or right of my middle line wasn't perfect, which is okay because this is a scrappy quilt, remember? So I'm going to press them, and I'm just going to press it out. And because it's a 6.5 inch square, usually when you do a half square triangle, especially 2 at a time half square triangle, your triangle size is 1 inch less than what you started with. So I'm going to guess my triangles are going to be 5.5 inches in size. I know I'm not the only quilter that loves experimenting with their scraps, so if you have experimented, please put it in the comments what you've experimented with, and so maybe if you have a great idea, maybe I want to make a quilt like that too. Hey, we're gonna trim these down. Oh, and I can actually trim them down to 6 inches, so that's good. And anytime you trim down a half square triangle piece, you just want to line up the middle diagonal line on your ruler with your diagonal line of your half square triangle. Yeah, now we just gotta do these to all 4. Y'all, I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. This is what happens when I quilt too fast. That's okay. If you look at these guys have the stripes vertical, and then if you look at these guys, this is my mistake, they're horizontal, where I accidentally didn't pay attention to the direction of that I was sewing, which is okay. This is a good mistake because now let's play with it. Let's do our little diagonals. Let's see how it looks. Ooh, okay, so we could do something like that. We could switch it this way. Ooh, okay, this was actually a good mistake because I want you to imagine with me, if I orient my blocks like this, kind of like a broken dish style block like this, and turn it into an entire quilt, look at the directions of our stripes. Because of our mistake, I say our mistake, it's my mistake. I'm not gonna put that one on you, it was solely on me. But because of my little happy accident, all my stripes are oriented in the same way, and you can imagine just how cool this would look on an entire quilt. Maybe I can make a little mock-up of it and we can put it right here. With all of those lines oriented the same way, that would look amazing. We could also just switch these up by doing your stereotypical solids on one direction, stripes on the other direction, and that would look really cool. Ooh, let's turn it into a pinwheel. We could do a pinwheel block with this, and that would look fun. Ooh, I'm kind of liking the way this looks. This is kind of happy and exciting. Sorry, y'all, I just got mesmerized by quilting. The fabric is just so beautiful, and scrappy fabric like this, just looking at this guy with the orientation of these blocks and all the different colors and patterns, with a scrappy quilt like this, the scrappier, the better. That's what I say. And so if you want to go a little less scrappy, doing something like this would be fun. Playing with color would be fun. Doing a quilt like this, instead of doing it random, being more organized with your colors and orienting that on a quilt in a certain way, that would look really cool. There's just so much you can do with it, and that is why I love scraps. This scrappy style of quilt block was so easy to put together, and now I can't wait to go through my entire scrap bin and make a whole quilt with these. Making them with selvages would be so much fun. If you end up making something like this, make sure to tag us in it, and so we can see it and cheer you on. I love seeing all your pretty quilts. And don't forget to like and subscribe and click that bell notification so that you get notified every time we drop a video. Thank you so much for hanging with me today on Thrifty Quilting, and I'll see you next time.